each day as it comes. Try to stay positive. So, yeah.
I think that's really all you can do right now. And I think everybody's sort of in a similar mindset where it's like some days are better than others. And we're all kind of at different situations depending on, some of us, like you and I, have small children at home. Other people have older children that they're trying to homeschool.
I know.
So everybody's situation is a little bit different. But I suppose the thing that we all have in common is that we have made it through 2020, which I think is a win, no matter how no matter how you're feeling after making it through. And I think we've all kind of learned a lot, and a lot of those kind of silver linings, I guess, that came out of everything that happened. I hope that we can carry some of them forward into the new year and into our businesses moving forward. So if you kind of had one standout thing in your mind, one lesson learned or perspective gained, what would yours be?
I think for me, especially when lockdown one started, I felt like I should have been doing a lot more. I should have been putting out brownie boxes. Brownie boxes were the thing. And I should have been, looking into postal options and doing this and doing that. And it was sort of just, but there was no flour. There was no this. It wasn't essential for me to go to a supermarket. It just didn't feel right for me. So, but that didn't mean that the comparisons didn't, obviously on Instagram and everything, you're seeing everybody else has been really creative and sort of responding, to the pandemic. And I felt like I was just shutting the doors and just being like, no. So it took me a while to realise that my main thing was to look after my wee one, and that was fine. To make that my main job, and for my sanity and for the it was the right choice. So I think I've definitely, now that we're in, for us where we are, lockdown 2, definitely that comparison thing is minimal now. Like it's definitely changed since the first lockdown. So I think perspective has been gained over time.
I totally agree. I think it's pretty impossible not to at least feel yourself comparing yourself to other businesses and social media. That's one thing I think it's quite bad for, is it's easy to just look and think everyone else is doing more than me, or decide that you should be doing something, that should word, which I hate. And I think what I realized too in looking back is that there was so much pressure that I thought other people were placing on me. Like I sort of felt like, well, if other people are doing this, I have to do it too, and everybody's expecting me to do it. But what I actually learned is that I was putting that pressure on myself. And I'm trying to keep that in mind this time, because I know that I pushed myself to do too much during that first lockdown. It ended up feeling totally burnt out and stressed. And, even with, I guess, Glasgow, where I am, we kind of got a bit of a lockdown 2.0 in sort of late November up in the lead up to Christmas. And I think I, again, tried to push and do too much and felt totally burnt out. So this time around, I'm being a bit better about realistic to-do lists and realizing that during the day, I also have a 3.5-year-old that I need to entertain, and that if I try and do that and work my normal amount of hours and do everything, I'm just going to end up burnt out a third time. So I think it maybe took me a little bit longer to learn that lesson, but I totally agree. The comparison thing is not a good way to go about things.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's so hard. And the thing is, I think social media as well, obviously being very aware of how much you're taking in, and maybe just scrolling past the accounts that that maybe aren't that helpful to you at that time, and being very aware of it and just being like, nope, that's not where I'm at. I can't do that just now. Even though your mind as a creative person, you're like, oh, I could do this and I could do that and I could, and yeah, the amount of times I've said to my partner, so I was just thinking I could do this, and then I've just realised I've got a 3.5-year-old to look after. So yes, it's but it was frustrating at the start, because I was sort of like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you just have to do what you need to do to get through every day, every week. It's just, busy times will come again. That's the thing. And any ideas, you just jot them down and you keep them for another day, and we'll we'll get back to a more normal place.
And I
soon,
think
I'm sure.
Well, I sure hope so, but I think there's some power in realizing that. And I know for you, you said, like, at the start, there were times you couldn't even get flour. I remember that. Obviously, I'm not a baker, but even just for my own, in home, like, there were loads of just regular ingredients you couldn't even get at the store. So putting that pressure on yourself, and also, as you were saying, it's hard to justify it in your head if it's really not an essential trip, and just doing what's right for you, and not looking at the fact that someone else is doing it and thinking, well, I should be doing it, because it just didn't feel right. And you did quite well with that, I think, to realize that right from the start, because for a lot of people it took a lot longer, myself included. And I know, like, you started working again, was it in the summertime or autumn
question.
time?
When did I start back? Autumn time. Was it summertime? School, preschool went back August, so it was just as soon as the preschool went back. That's right. August time. So
well, and
and I got a good run at it. I feel like I've had a good few months of supplying my main customer, but they're now obviously shut because, well, they've taken the decision to shut as a coffee shop. So it's just learning to be flexible as well. It's like we all have to be flexible as business owners, but small business owners as well, especially when you're a one man or one person job. But this past year has just been like testing your flexibility to to the max. So but I think we can learn a lot from it. So we just have to remind ourselves what we've been through, and that whatever's coming next, or whatever comes next in the next few years, we've been through this. So
well, and I think it gave a lot of people the confidence to try new things as well. So, like, I know, because I follow your business quite closely, I know that you did some new things this year, like some stuff at Halloween, and you came up with that cool idea about, like, the Deck the Halls box, and even some things that you tried that were different with your Christmas ordering than you had done in the past. And I think, I'm not going to attribute that all to what happened this year, but I think it really made people stop and realize, like, it's my business. I can do whatever I want with it. Just because I was doing things this way pre-lockdown, pre-pandemic, doesn't mean that I can't try something new or change the way that I work. So it's maybe given everyone that confidence, or that realization that, like, actually I can be adaptable if I want or need to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you have an idea, you obviously have the idea in your head, and it's like the best idea in the world, and then you actually start working it out, packaging, this, that, next thing, and sometimes you're kind of like, but a lot of it is, if I put this on social media, are people going to take to it? Are they just going to be like, whatever, but part of me this year was just like, just get it out there, just do it, just do something different. If there's any year to do it, it's now, and I think I needed something exciting to do rather than just be churning out the same stuff. So I quite enjoyed that part of it for sure. So yes.
I think it's quite encouraging that so many people were able to start or finish or share projects or ideas that they had had in their head for who knows how long. I mean, even this podcast, there some of that plays into this as well. And I think for a lot of us, and especially creative people, tend to be a little bit on the perfectionist side of things, and it's like nothing's ever going to be good enough to share. And the problem with that is that sometimes it means that things never get shared or they never get finished. And that is a real shame, because I don't think anybody else would look at anything new and be the first to criticize it. I think for the most part, when we see other people doing new things, it inspires us to do new things. And I know that's true for me when I see other people, and, you know, especially during lockdown, when I've seen the way that people have adapted their businesses, the changes that they've made, the new things that they've been willing to try, it inspired me to do the same myself. And it's, you know, the reason that this podcast came about, and the reason that I sort of tweaked the focus of my business over lockdown to kind of sharing knowledge, and now moving more into the brand and content strategy side of things as well. So amazing things happen when we aren't afraid to try new things and when we inspire others to do the same. My next guest comes from a unique standpoint in that she's actually not minding lockdown as much as most of the rest of us are. Kat at Paints Pylons. Kat is an artist, and she is going to share some perspective on finding a new routine, and also on her biggest lesson learned in 2020.
Hey Kat, how are you doing?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I think like everybody else, it was a bit of a weird start to the year. Can't say I've ever had a year start out in a lockdown before.
Yeah, me neither. Although, and this is an unpopular opinion, I will credit that. I quite like lockdown. So I think I'm going to be quite, I mean, obviously I want everyone to be safe and healthy. That goes without saying. But I think I'm going to be really, really upset when lockdown ends. and for obvious reasons, you know, my stockists, I want them to be open again, and hairdressers, and I've got friends that are like, I understand people are miserable, like, you know, and this is like really affecting people's lives in a horrendous way. But I'm a house mouse. Although that is one of the things I'm going to change when all this is all over. I'm going to leave the house more, because I think I like my own company a little bit too much.
You know, you say it's an unpopular opinion, but I think everybody that I've spoken to, like for this podcast, or just over the last, what is it now, 10 months or however long we've been in this weird situation, almost everyone has at least found some sort of a silver lining. And I think a lot of people, if they were maybe a little bit more introverted to begin with, or they just were homebodies, or whatever the kind of tie-in is, I think they have quite enjoyed having more time at home. And even someone like me, who I would say was the opposite, I was never at home before. I would never even spend a whole day at home. I was like, no, I need to be out seeing stuff. I've actually enjoyed having some downtime in the house and in the flat, and realized that maybe I should be doing a bit more of that. So I think there's something to that. I don't think it's an unpopular as you think.
Yeah, I mean, especially when, like, I'm very lucky in my house. I have this behind it, it's a mess, but I have an art room. It's filled with lovely things, like really lovely things. I mean, I'm always poor because it's full of lovely things. But there's paints for days, there's paper for days, there's pen, everything. So I just get loads of work done. And it means, you know, there's no, like with college, I go to college, obviously. I don't have to leave the house to do that. So anytime I've got downtime, I'm like, oh, I can get work done. There is a downside to that. I work all the time. So it's like, I was up till 2:00 in the morning yesterday, like this morning, just like working. And you get totally absorbed. And then you realize you haven't really talked to anyone, or so there is, you know, pros and cons, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people too, even those of us who were used to working from home before, it's weird right now. I don't know if it's because there's nothing else to do or because we're stuck at home, but I was really bad for that most of last year, just like being on the laptop till all hours of the night trying to get stuff done. Or I don't mind it so much with the creative stuff. Like I was pulling out my camera a lot and like just shooting different light and stuff in the flat. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I just had some kind of creative time. But you're right, you could just end up working nonstop because you're trapped inside.
Yeah. It's a nice job though. You know, it's a nice job. It could be worse. You know, if I was, I don't know, just having to do housework, then I'm sure I would have like just given up for the sofa. And a lot of my work is digital based. So even if it starts off as a physical thing, it will always be finished digitally, which means I've got a lovely routine. Do you know what? I do have an absolutely lovely routine at the moment.
That, I think it sounds like you've kind of gotten into a good routine. And I think of everyone I've spoken to, you probably have the most positive outlook about it out of anybody. I think you seem to have fallen into a good pattern anyways. It's working for you. So I guess if you look back at the last 10 months, your time in 2020, I guess. Is there anything that you've kind of learned that really sticks out in your head, or anything that you're kind of trying to carry forward in